Hello, welcome to American Christian or Christian American. Today we're going to talk about a school teacher in Idaho who was told to take down a poster saying everybody was welcome here. I'm going to play for you the story first, and we'll do a little talking, and then we got several other little videos we're going to bring together to talk about this issue. And we'll see what we can bring out today and talk about.
Look, in the face of everything that's happening, it takes guts for ordinary people to stand up against it. But here's the thing. So many people are. Like Sarah Inama. For the past 4 years, she's taught world civilization to sixth graders at Lewis and Clark Middle School in Meridian, Idaho. And like all teachers, she decorates her classroom with motivational posters. Posters like this one that says, "In this room, everyone is welcome, important, accepted, respected, encouraged, valued, and equal." An even more straightforward one showing children's raised hands with the tagline, "Everyone is welcome here." You've probably seen this kind of stuff a million times in kids' classrooms. I know I have as a dad. The kind of inspirational messages that are simply meant to tell students, whoever you are in the right place, you belong here. Shouldn't be controversial, right?
So for 4 years, these signs have survived sans harassment. Nobody said a word about them. That is, till about a month ago.
My building administration came to me during my lunch period and told me that they needed to be taken down by the end of the day. They told me that they were in violation of district policy because in today's political environment, they're considered a personal opinion.
Did they say somebody complained about them?
No, I asked if anyone had complained about them, and they said, no, we just want to protect you from that if that were to happen.
In this political environment? Mm-hmm. That is not acceptable.
Yeah, I was told a couple things. That everyone is welcome here is not something that everybody believes. So that's what makes it a personal opinion.
You were told this? Mm-hmm. That not everybody believes everyone is welcome?
Right.
Not everyone believes everyone is welcome. Believe it or not, that is the new policy of the West Ada School District. It is a policy they updated after Idaho lawmakers passed a state law stating that critical race theory divides people and is contrary to the unity of the nation and the well-being of the state. The team trying to cancel this classroom poster is in a kid's classroom is led by the school district's chief academic officer, Marcus Myers. And yes, he says the problem here is the colors of the hands.
If there was a poster that just said everyone is welcome here, black background, white words, do you think the team would have objected to that?
I don't think the team would have. Now, that would have been a team decision, but I don't think the team would have. And I say that because those exist in our schools.
I was going to say, you have things that are almost identical to this. They just don't have multicoloring, and then they don't have the hands that obviously are different shades of skin tone, right? Ranging from white all the way to black.
Yeah.
So
the text by itself doesn't allow for interpretation.
Okay, so that's school district chief academic officer Marcus Myers. Everyone is welcome here as long as you're not talking about, everyone. As dumb as this is, and boy, it's dumb, this is what is happening across the country. Civil rights initiatives, anti-discrimination initiatives, diversity initiatives, inclusion, all being gutted. So, if you were in that teacher's position, what would you do?
Because I was told to take it down by the end of the day, I did so. And the following few days, I just was so unsettled by it. And so I went back into my classroom and put it back up. And I emailed my principal and said, I don't agree. I don't agree that this is a personal opinion. I feel like this is the basis of public education.
Sarah Inama says the school district offered to buy her other, less controversial posters. She says Myers, the district boss, told her the political environment ebbs and flows, and what might be controversial now might not have been controversial 3, 6, 9 months ago, and we have to follow that. They have now given her until the end of the school year to take down the posters or face possible punishment for insubordination. That, she says, just solidified her resolve.
I just feel like, as a teacher, and I feel like probably a lot of teachers share this sentiment, I would do anything to protect my students. I love all of them unconditionally. We protect them from danger. Quite literally would take a bullet for these students. And this is the one small thing that I feel like I can do to speak out against this and stand up for them, to protect them from being affected by racist sentiments affecting their classroom. I find it hard to grapple with the fact that the reason why this poster needs to come down is because there are people outside of our school that disagree with it.
Now, Sarah Anama was not alone. Her students have staged walkouts on her behalf and are supporting her decision to keep the posters up by sharing bracelets and T-shirts with that message. Everyone is welcome here. It is amazing to watch this history teacher at a grade school in Idaho stand up to the creeping fascism of her state and her school. And
So, after looking at this video, I applaud this teacher for putting her stuff back up. And you saw the different responses of people standing up with her, but she was insistent that, no, I'm not going to fall into this. And what was happening was that the pushback from racism, people who want to maintain a racist society, didn't want to say everybody was welcome here. At least not, they didn't mind words. Kind of like a constitution saying that all men are created equal, but are they? Not in the founders' mindset. Because the founders accepted that enslaved people, which were African Americans, were only 3/5 of a person. They were busy taking the land and slaughtering the Native Americans, so they didn't really think that everybody was welcome. So in other words, as long as you don't present people that look different in a poster, you just have the words, everybody is welcome, we're okay with that. Because see, they can define that in a different way. But when you actually put evidence up there of people who look different, that actually makes it harder for them to maintain a racist society. Now, they also don't want critical race theory. We're going to look at that in a little while, but it has some other things to go up to it. Why don't they want critical race theory? Well, many people claim that critical race theory is indoctrination. What we're going to talk about today shows that it is not indoctrination. In fact, it is actually deprogramming. Indoctrination comes in a different way. And let's look at a couple different, we're going to look at a video right now, and then we'll have another one that gives us a little bit to refute this.
White children.
Show me the smart child. And why is she the smart child?
Because she is white.
Okay. Show me the dumb child. And why is she the dumb child?
Because she plays.
Well, show me the ugly child. And why is she the ugly child?
Because she plays.
Show me the good-looking child. And why is she the good-looking child?
Because she likes skinny.
And show me the skin color you believe most teachers think looks bad on a girl.
I don't think it matters. Because I think each teacher wants to help a student learn either way what they look like. And it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. It just matters what you look like on the inside.
Show me the good-looking child.
They look the same.
Yeah? Show me the child you would like as a classmate.
All of them.
You like all of them as classmates? Why do you say all of them?
Because I don't really care what color they have.
This 5-year-old girl gave some provocative answers during her test. I asked her about them later.
How about you? Why do you want that skin color?
Because it looks lighter than this kind, because this looks a lot like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't like the way brown looks, because the way brown looks really nasty for some reason, but I don't know what reason. That's all.
So you think it looks nasty?
Well, not really, but sometimes.
Sometimes. And Brielle, they asked what color adults don't like. Do you remember what you said? Which one? That's right, that's what you said. Why do you think adults don't like that color?
Dark.
Dark. adults? You think adults don't like dark?
Well, maybe some adults do, but maybe some of them don't.
The questions that got overwhelmingly white-biased answers?
Show me the one you think most children would think looks bad on a boy.
More than 70% of the older black children chose the darkest skin tones.
Show me the child who has a skin color most children don't like.
More than 61% of the younger black children chose the two darkest shades.
Show me the ugly child.
More than 57% of the younger black kids chose the two darkest shades. Dr. Spencer says the research shows the bias toward white is still very much part of our culture.
All kids are exposed to these stereotypes, but what's really significant here is that white children are learning or maintaining those stereotypes much more strongly than the African American children.
And that is our third finding, the finding that interested Dr. Spencer the most, that overall younger and older children keep the same patterns stereotyping. In other words, their ideas change little from age 5 to 10.
Ordinarily, by the time children are older, there's sort of a natural filter, their own ways of thinking sort of aids them in sort of rethinking the extreme stereotypic sort of responses to become less highly biased.
That left Professor Spencer wondering what's causing this pattern. She speculates that kids are bombarded by stereotypical messages and that adults in kids' lives have to fight to override the deluge. Black parents may be more diligent about that, while white parents may not notice the need.
All right, so we looked at this one here, and it talks about the idea that some children would be picking the dark-skinned child to be the dumb child, to be the unliked child, to be the ones that adults don't like. And you saw some African American children not liking the fact that they looked like the darker skinned child. One girl there said that it looks nasty. Why does she think it looks nasty? Well, that's because our society has told her that she's nasty, that because of the way she looks, because of the color of her skin. Instead is that she's a beautiful girl, regardless of what she looks like. But they told her in a negative way that she's not worth as much as somebody who is lighter skinned. She's not as smart as people with lighter skin. Now we have two people, young children here, who said that it didn't matter. So obviously something's happening at home here. The parents are teaching them better and different than what the world teaches them. But the world here, and especially if the parents, especially with white children, don't reinforce this, the world makes them feel like they're less important. And if the parents of black children who also have been traumatized this way and they don't feel good about themselves, sometimes it's hard to make your children feel better about themselves. This is because things are carried down from generation to generation. Whether you're talking about racism or you're talking about just a parent being abused and hurt, and this isn't just regarded to African Americans, regarded to anybody who goes through abuse. So see, we're all the same. We carry things from generational. Unless we resolve those issues in ourselves, we're going to pass at least some of that down to our children. And it's going to affect, in many ways, how they feel about who they are. We're going to look at this other video we've used before, but I want to bring it out again. And this really helps us to understand here.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
Okay, so watching this video, now one thing I want to point out, if you didn't notice, to make sure you understand this video, is they did swap the dolls back and forth with different children at times, so they weren't in the same place. So the white doll might be on one side or the other side, depending what it was. But it was consistent that these children chose the bad doll, the ugly doll, everything negative was the black doll, and everything positive was the white doll. And then the one girl, they asked, which doll looks most like you? And did you hear, like me? And then she pointed to the black doll. How does she feel about herself now? Or how has she felt about herself? Because these negative stereotypes are put in here. We talk about critical race theory and we say indoctrination. This is indoctrination. Critical race theory is not indoctrination. It is deprogramming. I have read critical race theory, at least one of the books on it, and I can tell you, it's making people bringing people together, not dividing them. Now let's watch this next video on critical race theory and then we'll close this out.
The whole purpose of critical race theory is to provide Americans with a way to understand the legacy of racism, even though those stories sometimes hurt.
It's anti-American training that vilifies white people and demands they apologize.
The best learning for students about social studies and about our democracy and our country is the learning where students can really grapple with the issues and really come to a deeper understanding of how our past informs our present.
All of this revisionist, woke curriculum, you are not going to do this to our children.
Teachers across the country are caught in the middle of the latest flashpoint in America's culture war, critical race theory. So what exactly is it? And why is there a push to ban it in schools?
Critical race theory is a body of ideas and a set of approaches to understanding the history and the present of American society that looks at the ways in which racial unfairness have been woven into the fabric of our institutions.
In other words, critical race theory, or CRT for short, is a legal academic framework centered on the idea that racism is systemic. It first started to coalesce in the 1970s when Black, Hispanic, and Asian legal scholars were researching the persistence of inequality despite the landmark legal victories of the civil rights era.
The legal scholars undertook a set of analyses and investigations that were aimed at trying to make sense of the puzzling persistence of racism in our legal system, in our political system, in our economy.
CRT has been studied in fields like sociology, economics, and political science. It's been used to examine issues such as housing and educational segregation, unconscious bias, and criminal justice reform.
Contrary to what often critics portray as sort of judging people intrinsically as being racist or not, or holding people responsible for, slavery in the past, it is actually to open up a conversation of how we all inherit and live in a society sort of beyond our choosing, right? We didn't choose where we were born or what racial group we were part of, and yet we have this common history. How do we understand that history? What does it mean for us? Those are the sorts of questions that critical race theorists were trying to grapple with.
The racial reckoning spurred by the police killing of George Floyd brought the decades-old framework back into the spotlight, as some schools sought to implement reforms that better address race in classrooms.
I think the thing that critical race theory would add to that conversation is that we not sort of confine that horrific example to Derek Chauvin, but to think about how, there were other law enforcement officers present, including officers of color, who stood idly by. And so that pushes us to think about, this phenomenon as not simply one of, racism by whites against blacks, right? I mean, it makes us think more critically, more engaged, more seriously around, well, why do these practices happen?
The push against CRT gained steam under former President Trump, when he directed federal agencies to end any diversity trainings related to critical race theory. Though ultimately blocked on First Amendment grounds and rescinded by President Biden, the fight over CRT at the state level is still in full effect.
The focus on CRT is a way to latch onto a concept that very few people sort of really understand, which sounds kind of scary perhaps to someone not, trained in what it means, and latch onto that as a kind of football in this sort of ongoing fight over, the future of this country with regard to racism.
As of mid-June 2021, 21 states have introduced bills attempting to restrict the teaching of critical race theory and or impose limits on how race is discussed inside the classroom. And those limits are often vague.
And instructors, educators, especially at the K-12 level, will just not go there, will not run the risk of upsetting parents or, being misunderstood or drawing the ire of, lawmakers.
In Texas, for instance, House Bill 3979 says teachers must explore current events from multiple positions without giving, quote, deference to any one perspective.
There's language in this bill, like teachers need to present a balanced perspective on current events, for instance. They have to do their due diligence to present multiple viewpoints. But what happens if they're talking about an issue in the classroom and they try to present multiple viewpoints, but the student comes home and tells their parent about the lesson that day, and the parent thinks, well, they didn't do a good enough job of presenting this viewpoint. So who decides when the teacher has done an adequate job of presenting multiple?
In this video, you see that we're talking about the idea that people are different, yes, but people can come together. That's what critical race theory does. It points out how to get along with each other, but not everybody wants to get along. Not everybody wants us to be equal. Where would white supremacy be if everybody was equal? I mean, you'd ruin the whole thing. If everybody was equal, what would white supremacists have to do? They wouldn't be able to be better. They wouldn't be able to have power over people. You can't have that. See, children in this country are already indoctrinated in our school system, in the way many of the news reports things, the way our prison system is, because people are conditioned and kept down, and then prisons treat them, brutalize them. All these negative things that happen, keeping African American families down because keeping people poor, and so of course there's more problems that go on because of poverty. But they also like to cover up all the problems that happen with white people and things. They like to point out all the black drug dealers when most of the stuff is run by a lot larger white groups. So all these things are lies to keep people down. Critical race theory is not programming. Critical race theory is deprogramming, helping younger people to understand that all this stuff about white people being superior is not true. And perhaps for them to understand that white people weren't first, which is true. But people will refute that till the day's end. Like the fact that Egypt did all these things. Well, Egypt was white. No, it was not. Black people had to be taught all these different things. They didn't know anything. We talked about the Moors, and that's just not true. The Moors invaded Spain, and they set up over 17 universities where the rest of Europe only had 2. So go back and look at episode 7 about the Moors, because the Moors brought education to Europe. Even the numbering system that we have today, replacing the old Roman numeral system, which was European, came from Arabic people and also Indian background. So we didn't develop that. Have Europeans done a great deal of invention of different things? Yes, but they didn't have the education before. The education of basic things and many, many brilliant things were brought to them by the Moors. Then they turned around and invaded Africa, destroyed their structure. And so they didn't have the ability to teach their children, and the same thing happened in America. Keep the slave dumb, keep them uneducated, so we have power. All right? Well, it isn't a matter of whites being superior, blacks being superior, we're all equal. Whites didn't have the opportunity in education, then they took away those opportunities for black people and other people too. So white supremacists don't want you to know these things. Again, go back to episode 6, and we talk about, they do a comparison to racist people, and they're talking about the Moors. So these are things that they don't want you to know. This would disrupt the system in America. Remember, when people talk about the system is broken, it's not broken. It's working perfectly. It's working to do what it was supposed to do, to keep non-whites down and to keep white people on top. That's the system. What we need is a different system, okay? So think about this. Your child and every other child deserves to have an understanding of all people. If you're racist, your job is to keep people dumb, to keep people uneducated, to keep people programmed. You saw one of those signs out that says critical race theory is poison. Poison to what? It's poison to white supremacy. It's poison to people who think they're arrogant in power. It's poison because it helps people not feel down and oppressed and helps them to stand up with pride. That's what it is. It's poison to those things. But it is not poison to good human thinking. It is not poison to true Christianity. It is poison to white Christian nationalism. Critical race theory helps bring us together, where the system of America helps divide us because they want a white America. And we're going to continue talking about this. I've got some other stuff that is actually just horrific of what this country has done. And they haven't just hurt African Americans. If you're one of those poor white people who don't like African Americans, guess what? The things they're doing is hurting you too. You know, maybe you should consider that you're on the wrong side. Because the people who you support to be superior, thinking you're superior, you're down, they're treating you down, when people who are being put down would want to unite with you to stand up against them. You could actually put yourself up if you stop thinking like a white supremacist. You're poor and a white supremacist. You have the worst of it all. Why not be with other people? And you get that burden off your back of trying to act like you're better than you are, when you can actually start being better who you are instead of better than everybody else. Until the next time on American Christian or Christian American, have a good day.